No niece of mine works in tech support. I can still hear my Uncle David's voice echoing through that dining room, sharp and final as a judge's gavel. The words hung in the air like smoke after a fire, thick enough to choke on. 23 pairs of eyes stared at me, some pitying, most relieved it wasn't them. All silent. Not one person at that table said a word in my defense, not even my mother. That was 3 years ago. I was 25, wearing a polo shirt with my company's logo embroidered on the chest, fresh from a double shift fixing network issues. I thought showing up straight from work proved dedication. Instead, it proved I was an embarrassment. But I'm getting ahead of myself. If you've ever felt like you don't belong in your own family, like your dreams aren't good enough for the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally, this story is for you. Stay with me until the end, because what happened next changed everything. And if you've ever been the black sheep, the disappointment, the one who didn't fit the mold, hit that subscribe button. You'll want to see how this plays out. My name is Maya Chen. At least that's still my legal name, though for 3 years the Chen family acted like I'd never existed. Let me take you back to where it all started. Not that dinner where I got kicked out, but years before, when I first realized I was invisible to the people who should have seen me most clearly. I was 17, sitting in my high school auditorium on graduation day. The ceremony had just ended, and all around me, families swarmed their graduates. Cameras flashing, flowers being handed over, parents crying those proud tears that say, "We did it." I sat in my plastic chair, smoothing down my royal blue gown, checking my phone for the 10th time. No messages, no missed calls. My parents were at a medical conference in San Diego. It's an important keynote, my mother had explained 2 weeks earlier, her voice already distant, already gone. You understand, don't you? We'll celebrate when we get back. They'd wired me $200 that morning with a note in the transaction memo. Congrats. Keep grades up for med school. I watched my best friend Jamie hug her mum, both of them crying. Her dad was taking photos from every angle, acting like she'd just won an Olympic medal instead of a high school diploma that half the class was getting. Something twisted in my chest, not quite jealousy, more like grief for something I'd never had. Your parents couldn't make it? Mrs. Patterson, my English teacher, had appeared beside me, her face doing that sympathetic crinkle that adults do when they feel sorry for you. They had something important, I said automatically, using the script I'd perfected over years of missed recitals, forgotten birthdays, and school conferences attended by whoever's nanny could make it. It's fine, I'm fine. She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. Nobody ever did. The Chen family had a reputation, brilliant, successful, prestigious. If they were absent, it must be for good reason, right? That night, I ate Chinese takeout alone in our empty house, scrolling through Facebook photos of my classmates with their families. I told myself it didn't matter, told myself that successful people made sacrifices, told myself I'd prove them right one day, that I'd become a doctor like they wanted. And then they'd finally look at me with pride, instead of that vague disappointment they couldn't quite hide. I was such a naive kid. 5 years later, I was in my second year of college at a decent state school, studying computer science because, plot twist, turns out I hated organic chemistry. Hated it with a passion that made me physically ill before every exam. I'd spent my first year trying to force myself into pre-med, earning B's and C's that horrified my parents, before I finally took an intro programming course as an elective and discovered something that actually made sense to me. Code was logical. You told the computer what to do, and it did it. No mixed signals, no hidden meanings, no wondering if you were disappointing anyone. Just clean, beautiful logic. I switched my major and didn't tell my parents for 6 months. When I finally did, during Thanksgiving break of my sophomore year, the conversation lasted exactly 90 seconds. Computer science? My father had looked up from his medical journal, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Like information technology, software engineering, cybersecurity, system architecture, there's a lot of directions I can go. I'd practiced this pitch for weeks. The field is growing exponentially, and there's a huge demand. Your cousin Sarah just got accepted to Johns Hopkins for medical school. My mother cut me off without even looking at me, passing the cranberry sauce to my Aunt Emily. They're so proud, full scholarship too. And just like that, the subject was closed. My father went back to his journal. My mother started a conversation with Aunt Emily about Sarah's impressive MCAT scores. I sat there holding my fork, the words I'd prepared dissolving in my throat like sugar in hot water. That was the thing about being in the Chen family. We didn't yell, we didn't fight, we just erased. If you didn't fit the narrative, you simply stopped existing in the conversation. It was cleaner that way, more civilized. That same Thanksgiving dinner, Uncle David held court at the head of the table, describing his son, David Jr.'s internship at a prestigious law firm. Following in the family tradition, he'd said, raising his wine glass, the Chens have always valued excellence, medicine, law, academia, professions that matter, professions that contribute to society in meaningful ways. I'd focused very hard on my mashed potatoes during that speech. 3 years after that Thanksgiving, I graduated college with a 3.8 GPA and a job offer from a small IT company doing help desk support. $35,000 a year, it felt like a fortune to me. I'd be doing level 1 tech support, mostly helping employees reset passwords and troubleshoot printer issues. But there was room to grow. The company was small enough that I could learn from the senior engineers, maybe work my way up to the security team. I was excited. For the first time in years, I felt like I was on a path that actually fit me. I called my mother to share the news. "That's nice, honey." Her voice was distracted. I could hear party sounds in the background, clinking glasses, laughter, music. "Your cousin just got accepted to Harvard Law. We're having a celebration dinner. You can come if you're free." "It's my first real job, Mum. I thought maybe we'll talk later. I have to go." The line went dead. I sat on my dorm room bed, holding my phone, staring at the job offer letter in my other hand. The paper crinkled slightly where my fingers gripped too hard. That moment, that specific moment, was when something shifted inside me. Not dramatically, not with any grand realization, just a quiet click like a lock sliding into place. Or maybe unlocking. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. I took the job, worked it for 2 years, showing up early, staying late, volunteering for every training session and certification course the company offered. I learned network architecture from Jerry, the senior engineer who saw something in me. I taught myself Python and penetration testing in my spare time. I moved into a studio apartment that cost 40% of my paycheck and ate a lot of ramen. The Chen family didn't ask about any of it. At family gatherings, the few I was still invited to, they'd ask what I was doing these days in that polite, disinterested tone you'd use with a distant acquaintance. When I mentioned my job, their eyes would glaze over, and someone would inevitably change the subject to Sarah's medical residency or David Jr.'s cases at the DA's office. I learned to stop sharing, learn to show up, smile politely, leave early with some excuse about having to work. Nobody ever questioned it. Nobody ever asked for details. I was becoming a ghost in my own family. And the terrifying thing was how easy it was, how little resistance there was to my slow disappearance. Then came the dinner that changed everything, the Chen family reunion 3 years ago. I was 25, working as an IT security specialist. I'd finally gotten that promotion, making $50,000 a year, and feeling like maybe, just maybe, I was building something. I'd discovered a vulnerability in our company's network that could have exposed client data, patched it before anyone knew there was a risk, and earned a bonus for it. I was proud, stupid, naive, hopeful. I should have known better. The reunion was at my grandparents' house, a beautiful colonial in the suburbs where every Chen gathering happened. I'd worked a long shift, a server migration that ran late, and showed up around 7 p.m, still in my work clothes. Navy blue polo with secure net solutions, embroidered on the chest, khaki pants, tired eyes. I'd grabbed my work bag by habit, my laptop and cables visible through the half-open zipper. The dining room fell silent when I walked in, not a dramatic silence. The Chen family was too refined for drama, just a gradual quieting, like someone turning down the volume on a radio. Uncle David was in the middle of a story about David Jr. passing the bar exam on his first try. The whole family was there, aunts, uncles, cousins, my parents, my grandparents at the head of the table, 23 people who shared my blood but felt like strangers. Maya, my mother's voice was tight. You're late. Sorry, work ran over. We had a server migration and you came straight from work? Aunt Emily's eyes scanned my outfit, her lip curling slightly. We're having a family dinner. I didn't have time to go home and change. I thought it was more important to be here than... What exactly do you do again? Uncle David leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled in that way that meant he was about to make a point. Some kind of computer repair? I'm an IT security specialist. I protect company networks from cyber threats, manage firewalls, conduct vulnerability, so tech support. He said it like a conclusion, like he'd just solved a simple equation. You fix computers when they break. My jaw tightened. It's more complex than that. Cybersecurity is... I'm sure it's very important. His tone said the opposite. He turned to David Jr., sitting to his right. Now, as I was saying, David scored in the top 10% of bar exam takers in the state. We're looking at a position with Morrison and Associates starting at $160,000. That's amazing, I heard myself say. Congratulations, David. My cousin nodded at me, but his smile was uncomfortable. He'd always been kind. In that passive way, people are kind when it costs them nothing. So, what is the plan, Maya? Uncle David turned back to me suddenly. Long term. You're 25 now. Surely this computer thing is just temporary until you figure out what you really want to do. The table had gone silent again. Everyone was looking at me, waiting. I could see my mother's face, tight with anxiety. My father had developed a sudden interest in his wine glass. "This is what I really want to do," I said slowly. "I'm good at it. I just got promoted and I'm working toward senior certifications in penetration testing and—" "But where does it go?" Uncle David pressed. "What's the end game? Are you planning to manage a team of computer repairmen? Open your own IT shop?" He said IT shop the way you might say convenience store or fast food restaurant in old Thais. Not contempt exactly, just profound dismissal. The cybersecurity field is projected to grow by 35% in the next decade. Companies are desperate for qualified security specialists. I'm positioning myself to what? He leaned forward. "Maya, I'm going to be honest with you because someone needs to be. This family has standards. Your grandfather was a surgeon. Your grandmother was a research professor at Stanford. Your mother is a cardiologist. I'm a senior partner at a law firm. Your cousins are doctors and lawyers. We contribute to society in meaningful ways. We have prestige. We have respect." My hands were shaking under the table. I clasped them together to make it stop. "And you—" He gestured at my work shirt, my laptop bag, my tired face. "You're fixing printers and resetting passwords. Do you understand how that looks when people ask me what my niece does? What am I supposed to say?" "You could say I'm a cybersecurity specialist." My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "You could say I protect sensitive data for a company that serves Fortune 500 clients. You could—" "It's embarrassing." Aunt Emily set down her fork with a decisive click. "I'm sorry, Maya, but someone needs to say it. It's embarrassing when people ask what our niece does, and we have to explain that you're in technical support." She said, "technical support," like it was something dirty. I looked at my mother. She was staring at her plate, her jaw working like she wanted to say something but couldn't quite form the words. My father had discovered something fascinating on the ceiling. "We tried to guide you." Uncle David's voice had taken on a disappointed father tone. "We offered to help with medical school applications. We had connections at law schools. You had potential, Maya, real potential. And you threw it away for this." I didn't throw anything away. I chose a different path. A lesser path. He said it simply, like it was objective fact. "You chose a lesser path, and now you're working a service job that any kid with a few IT certifications can do. There's no prestige in it, no respect, no contribution to society that matters." Something hot and sharp twisted in my chest. "So, unless I'm a doctor or a lawyer, I don't matter?" Don't be dramatic. We're talking about professional standards. Excellence. The Chen family has always represented excellence. And I don't? The words came out louder than I intended. Several relatives flinched. The Chen family didn't do loud. Uncle David stood up slowly. He was a tall man, imposing in his tailored suit, his silver hair combed back like some kind of patriarch from a family drama. "No niece of mine works in tech support." The words cracked through the room like a whip. "David," my grandfather started, but Uncle David held up a hand. "No, this needs to be said. If you're not going to make something of yourself, Maya, don't come to family events. You're bringing down the family name. You're making us all look bad. When people see you in your little work uniform talking about resetting passwords like it's a career, it reflects on all of us. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. My whole body felt like it was vibrating, like I might shatter into pieces right there on my grandmother's Persian rug. So I should leave. I think that would be best. His face was impassive. Not angry, not cruel, just decided, like he was announcing the weather. I looked around the table. 23 faces. Some looked uncomfortable. Some looked relieved. Nobody looked surprised. Nobody was standing up to defend me. Not my grandmother, who'd always slipped me cookies as a kid. Not my cousin Sarah, who I'd helped study for her MCAT. Not David Jr., who'd called me cool when I fixed his laptop in high school. Not my parents. My mother was crying silently, tears running down her face, but she didn't say anything, didn't stand, didn't tell her brother he was wrong. My father had his arm around her, but his eyes were fixed on his plate. I picked up my laptop bag. The zipper jingled in the silence. The only sound in that huge dining room, except for my Aunt Emily's relieved exhale. "Okay," I said. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it was coming from underwater. "Okay." I walked out. Through the dining room, through the foyer, with its family photos covering the walls, photos of graduations and weddings and holidays, photos that would probably get edited now. The ones with me in them quietly removed. Through the front door, into the cool evening air. Nobody followed me. Nobody called out. Nobody ran after me like in the movies, ready to apologize, to take it back. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at the warm light glowing from my grandparents' windows. I could see silhouettes moving inside, life continuing, the dinner resuming now that the embarrassment had been removed. That's when I asked myself the question that would haunt me for the next 3 years. Am I really not good enough? My phone buzzed, a text from my manager, Jerry. "Migration successful. Nice work tonight. You're getting good at this, kid." I stared at those words until they blurred. Someone thought I was good at something. Someone thought I had value. It just wasn't anyone who shared my last name. I drove back to my studio apartment, ate leftover pad thai cold from the container, and cried for the first time in years. Not because I was hurt, though I was, but because I finally understood something I'd been avoiding for 25 years. My family didn't just misunderstand me, they didn't value me. And nothing I did in their defined lanes of success would ever change that. So I decided to stop trying. The next morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. with a thought crystallizing in my mind like frost on a window. If they didn't see value in what I was doing, maybe I wasn't doing enough yet. Not for them, for me. To prove to myself that I'd chosen right, that this path meant something, that I could build something they'd have to acknowledge even if they'd never respect it. I started planning, not revenge, I'm not that dramatic. Just proof. Proof that I could succeed on my own terms. Proof that cybersecurity wasn't just fixing computers. Proof that I mattered, even if the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally had decided I didn't. That was 3 years ago. Now I'm 28, and let me tell you about what happened in those 3 years. The years my family pretended I didn't exist. The years I built something they couldn't ignore, even though they never asked about it. I didn't call them. They didn't call me. At first, I checked my phone constantly, irrationally hoping for an apology that never came. After 6 months, I stopped hoping. After a year, I stopped checking. I threw myself into work with the kind of obsession that probably wasn't healthy, but felt necessary. Jerry, my senior engineer, noticed. "You're here more than I am," he said one night, finding me in the office at 9 p.m., surrounded by monitors displaying code and network diagrams. "You got somewhere better to be?" I almost laughed. "Not really." He pulled up a chair. "You're wasting your time with help desk tickets. You know that, right? You've got instincts for security architecture. Real instincts. Why are you still answering phone calls about password resets? Because that's my job? That's your current job. Doesn't have to be your only job." He pushed a business card across my desk. "There's a security certification boot camp starting next month. Expensive, but worth it. You learn penetration testing, ethical hacking, threat analysis, the real shit, 3 months intensive." I looked at the card. The cost was printed on the back, $8,000. Almost 3 months of my salary. I can't afford this. You can't afford not to. Look, kid, you're good. You're really good, but you're also spinning your wheels here. This company isn't going to promote you past where you are. You're too valuable doing what you're doing, but if you get these certs, get this training, you could consult, freelance, start your own thing even. "Start my own thing," I repeated like it was a foreign language. "Why not? You're what, 25? You've got nothing to lose, no family obligations, no mortgage, no kids. This is the time to take risks." No family obligations. The words stung more than they should have. He didn't mean anything by it, didn't know about the dinner, the exile, the 3 years of silence. But he was right. I was free in a way I'd never been before, untethered, alone, yes, but also unobligated. I took the boot camp, lived on ramen and store-brand cereal for 3 months, worked my day job, and studied until 2 a.m. most nights. I failed the first certification exam, passed it on the second try, then passed 3 more in rapid succession. By the time I was 26, I had credentials that usually took people 5 years to accumulate. Jerry started sending freelance clients my way. Small businesses that needed security audits, startups that couldn't afford full-time security staff. I worked them on weekends and evenings, built a reputation for being thorough, fast, and discreet. Word spread in the way it does in tech, quietly through back channels and LinkedIn recommendations. One client was a mid-sized healthcare company that had been hit by ransomware. They were panicking, ready to pay the ransom, when I found a backup they didn't know existed and a vulnerability in the ransomware's encryption. I got them back online in 48 hours, saved them $3 million in ransom payments and lost business. The CEO asked if I'd consult for them long term. Then she recommended me to 2 other companies. Then those companies recommended me to others. By the time I was 27, I was making more from freelance consulting than from my day job. That's when I met Marcus Rivera. It was at a cybersecurity conference in San Francisco, the kind I'd saved up for months to attend, taking vacation days from work and staying in a hostel to afford the ticket. I'd just given a lightning talk about identifying social engineering attacks, speaking to maybe 40 people in a side room while the keynote speakers got thousands in the main hall. Marcus approached me afterward. He was older, maybe mid-40s, wearing an expensive suit and the kind of watch that cost more than my car. That was the most practical presentation I've heard all day, he said, shaking my hand. Everyone else is talking theory. You're talking real-world application. Thanks. I'm Maya Chen. I waited for the usual questions about which company I worked for, what my title was, the credential measuring that happened at these conferences. Instead, he said, I know who you are. You saved Meridian Healthcare from that ransomware attack last year. I'm on their board. They couldn't stop talking about you. Oh, well, I was just doing my job. No, you weren't. Your job is help desk support at SecureNet Solutions. I looked you up. What you did for Meridian was way above your pay grade. Why are you still answering help tickets when you could be doing consulting full-time? I blinked at him, suddenly feeling very young and very tired. Because consulting is unstable? Because I need health insurance? Because I'm not sure I'm good enough to make it work full-time? You're good enough. He said it with complete certainty. You're more than good enough. I've been in this industry for 20 years. I can spot talent. You've got it. Thank you, but how many clients do you have right now? Freelance, maybe 15 regular ones, plus ad hoc projects. Revenue? I hesitated. Nobody had ever asked me that directly. About 120,000 last year, on top of my day job. He laughed, not mocking, just surprised. You're making 6 figures on the side and you're still showing up to reset passwords? Maya, what are you afraid of? The question hit harder than it should have. What was I afraid of? Failure, obviously. Proving my uncle right, that I'd chosen the wrong path, that I wasn't good enough for real success, being alone without even the thin safety net of a stable paycheck, obscurity, insignificance, not mattering. A lot of things, I admitted. Fair enough. But let me ask you this, what's your ceiling at SecureNet? What's the highest you can climb there? Senior security analyst, maybe, if I'm lucky and someone retires. And that maxes out at what? 90,000? 100? Something like that. You made more than that on the side, in your spare time, while working full time. Do you see the math problem here? I saw it. I'd been seeing it for months, but hadn't wanted to admit it. Admitting it meant taking a risk, meant jumping without a net, meant trusting myself in a way I'd been carefully taught not to. I have a proposal, Marcus said. I run a venture capital firm. We invest in cybersecurity startups, mostly, but we also have a portfolio of companies that need security consulting. If you're willing to go full-time independent, I can send you enough work to match your current salary, guaranteed for 1 year. After that, if you're good, and I think you will be, you'll have more clients than you can handle. Why would you do that? Because I'm good at spotting talent and bad at watching it waste away in corporate hellholes. Also, frankly, because the security consultants I usually work with charge 3 times what you do and aren't as good. This is good business for me, but it's better business for you. I thought about my studio apartment, my ramen dinners, my student loans, the absolute silence from my family for 18 months, the freedom of having nothing left to lose. Okay, I said, okay, let's do it. Marcus smiled. You won't regret this. I quit my job the next Monday. Jerry was disappointed, but not surprised. Knew you'd outgrow us eventually, he said. Said Chitia, shaking my hand. Go build something great, kid. Building something great turned out to be harder and more consuming than anything I'd done before. The consulting work Marcus sent me was legitimate. Complex security audits, penetration testing for major corporations, incident response for data breaches. I worked 16-hour days, taught myself new programming languages and attack vectors, failed spectacularly at a few projects, and recovered and got better. After 6 months, I had a waiting list of clients. After a year, I had to start turning people down. I hired my first employee, a recent graduate from MIT, who reminded me of myself at that age, brilliant and underestimated. Then another, without meaning to, without really planning it. I was running a company. Chen Security Solutions. I kept the name, partly because I'd spent money on the LLC paperwork and didn't want to redo it, partly because some bitter part of me wanted to prove that a Chen could build something worth respecting, even if it wasn't medicine or law. Partly because they'd tried to erase me and I refused to be erased. During all this, my family continued to exist in a parallel universe where I didn't. I saw updates on Facebook, carefully curated photos of holidays and celebrations, cousin Sarah's wedding, David Jr.'s promotion to senior associate. I wasn't in any of the photos, wasn't mentioned in any of the captions. It was like I'd died, except nobody had held a funeral. My mother's Facebook bio said, "Proud mother of a cardiothoracic surgeon." My brother, who lived in Boston and barely talked to her, no mention of me. Aunt Emily's Christmas card photo included the entire extended family, carefully arranged on my grandparents' porch. 22 people. I counted. At first, it hurt in a fresh way every time. Then it hurt in a dull, familiar way. Then it just became information, data points confirming what I already knew. They'd meant it. The exile wasn't temporary. I really wasn't part of the family anymore. But you know what's funny about pain? It can be fuel if you let it. Every time I saw one of those perfect family photos, I worked a little harder, landed a bigger client, hired another brilliant person, built something a little more substantial. I turned 28. Chen Security Solutions had 50 employees and revenue approaching 40 million. We protected infrastructure for companies I dreamed of working for as a college student. I still lived in that studio apartment, still ate too much takeout, still worked too many hours. But I was building something real, something that mattered, even if the only person who believed it was me. And Marcus, who'd become something like a mentor, maybe even something like the father figure I'd never really had. He'd pushed me to pitch to bigger clients, to hire aggressively, to stop thinking small. "You're not running a freelance operation anymore," he said over coffee one morning. "You're running a company, a real company. Start acting like it." I don't know how to run a real company. I'm 28. I still forget to do my laundry. Nobody knows how to run a company at first. You learn by doing. But Maya, listen to me. He leaned forward, serious. What you've built is special. Your security protocols prevented 3 major data breaches last quarter. 3. Do you know how much money that saved your clients? How many people's personal information you protected? That's literally my job. And you're exceptional at it. But nobody knows. You're hiding. Why are you hiding? I didn't have a good answer. Maybe because I'd spent so many years being invisible that it felt safer. Maybe because putting myself out there meant risking rejection again, and I'd had enough rejection to last a lifetime. Maybe because I was still that 25-year-old kid in a work polo being told I wasn't good enough. What if I put you forward for some industry recognition? Marcus suggested. There's Forbes 30 under 30, TechCrunch disruptors, MIT Technology Review innovators. No, the word came out sharp. I don't need recognition. I'm fine just doing the work. You're not fine. You're talented and successful and completely invisible. And I think, he paused, choosing words carefully, I think you're invisible on purpose. I think someone convinced you that you don't deserve to be seen. Can we not do therapy over coffee? Just think about it. That's all I'm asking. I thought about it for 3 months, and the answer kept being no. Until I saw the Facebook post about the Chen family legacy gala. It was Aunt Emily who posted it, with the kind of smug pride that made my teeth ache. So excited to chair this year's Chen family legacy gala, celebrating the achievements of our extraordinary family and raising money for medical scholarships. The Chens have always believed in excellence, and this evening will showcase the very best of what our family represents. The photo showed Uncle David at a podium, my mother and father seated in the front row, all my cousins arranged behind them in business formal wear. The caption listed their accomplishments. Dr. Sarah Chen, medical resident at Johns Hopkins. David Chen Jr., senior associate at Morrison & Associates. Dr. James Chen, pioneering cardiac surgeon. No Maya. No mention that the Chen family had another branch, another member, another person who shared that name, and maybe, just maybe, had accomplished something worth noting. The comments were full of congratulations and excitement. Such an accomplished family. The Chens set such a high standard. Proud to know such dedicated public servants. I closed my laptop and sat in my apartment, still the studio I really needed to upgrade, and felt something crystallize that had been forming for 3 years. Not anger exactly, not even hurt anymore, just clarity. They were going to celebrate the Chen family legacy while pretending I didn't exist. They were going to raise money for medical scholarships while ignoring that I'd built a company that protected medical infrastructure for hospitals across the country. They were going to toast to excellence while erasing the family member who'd actually built something from nothing, with no support, no connections, and no inherited safety net. I texted Marcus, remember that Forbes thing? Submit my name. He responded immediately, hell yes, about damn time. The application process was intensive. 50 pages of documentation, financial records, client testimonials, interviews with Forbes editors. They wanted to verify everything: revenue, employee count, client list, industry impact. I'd never really tallied it all up before, never looked at the full picture of what I'd built. Chen Security Solutions, 52 employees, 43 million in annual revenue. Clients including Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and critical infrastructure providers. We'd prevented 17 major security breaches in the past year alone, protecting millions of people's personal data. I'd developed 3 proprietary security protocols that were being adopted industry-wide. I held 6 patents on security technologies. When I saw it all written out, I barely recognized it as my work. It looked like someone else's company, someone successful, someone who mattered. The Forbes editor who interviewed me kept asking about my background, my family support system, how I'd built something this significant so young. I kept answers vague. I had good mentors, I worked hard, I got lucky with timing. And your family, are they in tech? No, they're in medicine and law mostly. Do they support what you're doing? I smiled in that careful way you smile when telling the truth would take too long. They have their own paths, I have mine. What I didn't say, they don't know what I'm doing. They haven't asked in 3 years. They've been hosting family dinners and holiday celebrations and weddings, and I haven't been invited to any of them. They think I'm still working help desk support, if they think of me at all. But they were about to find out. The Chen Family Legacy Gala was scheduled for October 15th, a Saturday evening at an upscale hotel ballroom downtown. The Facebook event page said it was a semi-public fundraiser. Family and close friends by invitation, but additional tickets available for purchase to support the scholarship fund. 300 people were expected. Senators, CEOs, university presidents. Uncle David had connections everywhere. I bought a ticket, used my company credit card, which felt appropriately ironic. $500 to attend an event celebrating a family that had kicked me out. But it was public, technically. Anyone could buy in. And I wanted to be there for what came next. Because the Forbes 30 Under 30 list was being announced on October 15th. The editor had told me I made the cut. Exceptional circumstances, unanimous decision. They wanted to feature me prominently. They were publishing at 7 p.m. Eastern, right in the middle of the gala's cocktail hour. I hadn't told my family I'd be there, hadn't told them about the Forbes recognition. Hadn't told them about the company, the revenue, the employees, any of it. Why would I? They hadn't asked. They'd made it very clear 3 years ago that my career was an embarrassment, not worth discussing at family dinners. They were about to get an update. Marcus asked if I was sure about this plan. It's pretty dramatic, he pointed out. You could just send them a link to the Forbes article, let them find out quietly. They've had 3 years to ask about my life. 3 years to wonder if maybe they'd been too harsh. 3 years to reach out. I was packing my laptop bag, checking my phone, preparing for the evening like it was a business meeting, which, in a way, it was, the business of closure. They chose silence. Now they get to see what I built in that silence. And what happens after? After? I looked at him. After, I go home. I keep building my company. I keep doing work that matters, with or without their acknowledgement. But you want the acknowledgement? I want them to know what they threw away. I smiled and it felt sharp. There's a difference. October 15th arrived sunny and unseasonably warm. I worked until 5 p.m. reviewing security protocols for a new government client, then went home and did something I hadn't done in years. I got dressed up. Nothing flashy, a simple black suit, professional but understated, minimal makeup. Hair pulled back, I looked like I was going to a business conference, not a family event, which felt right. I arrived at 7:15, fashionably late enough that most guests had already gathered, but early enough that the formal program hadn't started. The ballroom was beautiful, chandeliers, white tablecloths, floral centerpieces that probably cost more than my monthly rent. 300 people in cocktail attire, networking and laughing and celebrating the Chen family's extraordinary contributions to society. Nobody noticed me walk in. I found a seat at a table in the back between a university dean I didn't know and someone's husband who looked as bored as I felt nervous. The table cards read general admission, the paying public, not family. Perfect. On stage, Uncle David was adjusting a microphone. Behind him, a massive screen displayed a slideshow of Chen family achievements, medical breakthroughs, legal victories, academic publications. Photos of my cousins at their graduations, my parents at hospital galas, Uncle David receiving some award from the State Bar Association. No photos of me, not even the old ones from when I was a kid. I'd been edited out completely, like I'd never existed at all. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Forbes goes live in 5 minutes. You ready? I typed back, as ready as I'll ever be. Uncle David stepped up to the microphone. The room quieted. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. We're here to celebrate something very special. The legacy of excellence that defines the Chen family, and to support the next generation of medical students who will carry that legacy forward. I half listened to his speech, watching the slideshow cycle through achievements. My mother appeared on screen, receiving some cardiology award. My father at a medical conference. Cousin Sarah in her white coat. David Jr. in a courtroom. The Chen family, beautiful and successful and complete, except for the part they'd cut out. My phone buzzed again. Not Marcus this time. A notification from Forbes. Then another. Then suddenly my phone was buzzing constantly. LinkedIn alerts, Twitter mentions, emails from clients and colleagues and people I hadn't heard from in years. The Forbes 30. Under 30 list was live. Around the ballroom I started to see it happening. People checking their phones, frowning at screens, whispering to their neighbours. A woman at the next table, someone's wife, I think, gasped audibly. Wait! There's a Chen on the list! Uncle David was still talking on stage, oblivious. The Chen family has always valued dedication to professions that truly serve society. Medicine, law, academia. These are the fields where one can make a real difference, where one can achieve true excellence. It says Maya Chen, someone whispered loudly enough for half the room to hear, CEO of a $50 million cybersecurity company. Says here she's protecting critical infrastructure for the Department of Defense. More phones came out. The whispers grew louder. Uncle David paused mid-sentence, confused by the disruption. Is there a Maya Chen in the family? Someone called out, because Forbes just named her one of the top 30 under 30 in technology. The slideshow froze on a photo of my parents. Uncle David's face went pale, then red. He looked to my mother in the front row. She was staring at her phone, her face the colour of paper, showing the screen to my father. Uncle David cleared his throat. There must be some mistake. No mistake, I said, standing up in the back. My voice carried in the sudden silence. That's me. 300 faces turned to look at me. Most were confused. Some were curious. A few, the family members who finally recognised me, looked like they'd seen a ghost, which in a way they had. The ghost of the family member they'd tried to delete. Maya? My mother's voice was barely audible. What are you doing here? I bought a ticket. It's a public event. I walked toward the front, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Every eye in the room followed me. Congratulations on the gala, Uncle David. It's a beautiful celebration of the Chen family legacy. Very comprehensive. He stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. I don't understand. The Forbes list says you're a CEO. You work in tech support. I did work in tech support 3 years ago when you kicked me out of the family for it. I kept my voice level, conversational, like we were discussing the weather. A lot has changed since then. 3 years. Aunt Emily stood up, looking between me and Uncle David. You haven't spoken to her in 3 years. She left the family, Uncle David said defensively. She chose a career that didn't fit our standards. Actually, you threw me out. And then no one called, no one emailed, no one invited me to Sarah's wedding or Grandpa's funeral or any family event for 3 years. I wasn't choosing to leave. I was choosing to stop trying to come back. The room was dead silent. Someone in the back coughed. But the Forbes article. My mother was scrolling through her phone, reading. It says you have 50 employees, 43 million in revenue. You're protecting government systems. How did we not know? You didn't ask. I looked at her and something old and painful throbbed in my chest. For 3 years, Mom, you didn't ask how I was doing, what I was working on, if I was okay. You removed me from your Facebook bio. You didn't invite me to family events. You made it very clear that unless I was a doctor or a lawyer, I didn't matter to this family. That's not... She started, but her voice broke. A man stood up near the front, someone I didn't recognize, silver-haired and dignified in an expensive suit. Excuse me, but did I hear correctly that you're Maya Chen from Chen Security Solutions? I turned to him. Yes, sir. Senator Catherine Walsh, he offered his hand. You saved my office from a ransomware attack last year. Your team worked around the clock for 72 hours straight. We tried to send you a commendation, but you refused it. I shook his hand. We were just doing our job, Senator. Your job saved 15 years of constituent data and prevented a major national security breach. I've been trying to get you to brief Congress on cybersecurity infrastructure. He looked at Uncle David with something like disgust. This is your niece? The one you said didn't fit your family standards? Uncle David opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. We didn't know about... We thought she was just what? Senator Walsh's voice had an edge. Just protecting our nation's digital infrastructure, just building a company that employs 50 people, just being named one of Forbes' top innovators, under 30. Another person stood, an elegant black woman in her 50s. I'm Dr. Patricia Morrison, Dean of Computer Science at MIT. Ms. Chen developed 3 security protocols that we're now teaching in our Advanced Cybersecurity program. She's been invited to keynote our spring symposium. She looked at my parents. You're Dr. James and Dr. Linda Chen, correct? From Stanford Medical? I believe we've met at conferences. My mother nodded weakly. Did you really not know your own daughter had achieved this much? Dr. Morrison's tone wasn't judgmental, just genuinely confused. This is extraordinary work. This is the kind of career we use as an example when we're encouraging young women to enter technology fields. More people were standing now, pulling out phones, pulling up the Forbes article. I could see it spreading through the room like a wave, the realization that the family had thrown out someone who'd become exactly the kind of success they claimed to value, just in a field they deemed beneath them. Marcus appeared at my elbow, I hadn't even seen him arrive. "Hope I'm not late to the party." He smiled at Uncle David. "Marcus Rivera, Rivera Ventures. I've been working with Maya for 2 years now. Quite the success story. Started with nothing, built a company worth..." He paused dramatically. "Well, our last valuation put it at 200 million, conservative estimate." Aunt Emily actually gasped. 200... Uncle David sat down hard in a chair, like his legs had stopped working. "Million," Marcus confirmed cheerfully. "Maya owns 60% equity. Do the math." He looked around the ballroom. "I'm confused, though. This is a celebration of Chen family excellence, right? Seems like there's a pretty major achievement you're not mentioning in your slideshow." The massive screen behind the stage suddenly changed. Marcus must have arranged it with the AV team. The slideshow of Chen family photos disappeared, replaced by the Forbes article. My face, larger than life. The headline, "Maya Chen, How One Woman is Revolutionizing Cybersecurity." My mother made a sound like she was choking. My father had his head in his hands. "How?" Cousin Sarah was staring at me like I was an alien. "How did you do all this?" "By working every day for 3 years," I said simply. "By taking every opportunity. By teaching myself what I didn't know. By refusing to accept that my worth was defined by your approval." I looked at Uncle David, still frozen in his chair by the podium. "You asked me once what the end game was, what I was building toward. This is it. A company that matters, work that protects people, a career built on my own terms, not medicine, not law, not anything you would have chosen for me, but mine." "We didn't know," he said again, like a broken record. "If we'd known..." "You would have what, been proud? Welcomed me back?" I shook my head. "You didn't need to know any of this to treat me with basic respect. To include me. To remember I existed. You chose not to do those things when you thought I was nobody. That tells me everything I need to know about what you value." My mother stood up, moving toward me. "Maya, honey, we made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But we can fix this. You're family. You'll always be family." "I'm family now?" The words came out harder than I intended. Where was that sentiment at Grandpa's funeral when Uncle David wouldn't let me in? Where was it at Sarah's wedding when I wasn't invited? Where was it every Christmas and Thanksgiving and birthday for 3 years? She was crying openly now, mascara running down her face. "I should have stood up for you. I should have called. I was just... Your father and I were embarrassed, and your uncle was so insistent, and we thought..." "You thought I was an embarrassment," I finished for her. "No, you thought I'd failed. You thought my career was beneath the family standards. And you know what? You were wrong. Not because of this." I gestured at the Forbes article on the screen, but because I was never beneath anything. I was just on a different path, and you should have loved me anyway. The silence in that ballroom was absolute. 300 people watching a family implode in real time. "So what now?" Uncle David finally asked. His voice had lost all its authority, all its certainty. "You came here to humiliate us?" "No." I looked at him and I realized something surprising. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired and sad and ready to go home. "I came here because I wanted you to know what you threw away. I wanted you to see that I built something that mattered without your support, without your approval, without your precious family connections." I wanted you to understand that your definition of success was never the only one that counted. And now? Aunt Emily asked quietly. Now I go back to my life, the one I built, with people who actually care about me. I looked at Marcus, who gave me an encouraging nod. I didn't need the Forbes recognition to know my work has value, but I needed you to see it. So you'd understand that when you cut me out of the family, you didn't hurt me. You just missed out on K-end. The tacos were good, better than good. The kind of street-style tacos that make you forget you're sitting at a fancy restaurant in downtown. The kind that remind you some of the best things in life are simple. Marcus and I didn't talk much about the gala. We talked about work, about a new contract with a financial services company, about his daughter's college applications. Normal things, safe things. My phone stayed off until I got home around midnight. When I finally turned it on, I had 83 missed calls and over 200 text messages. I scrolled through them with a kind of detached curiosity, like I was reading someone else's notifications. 15 calls from my mother, 10 from Aunt Emily, 7 from Uncle David, 5 from Cousin Sarah. The rest were from family members I hadn't heard from in years. Second cousins, my dad's brother from Chicago, even my grandmother, who I didn't think knew how to use a cell phone. The texts ranged from apologetic to angry to confused. My mother, please call me. We need to talk. I'm so sorry. Aunt Emily, this is a family matter. You shouldn't have made it public like that. Uncle David, your behaviour tonight was inappropriate and vindictive. We deserve an explanation. Sarah, I had no idea. I'm so sorry I didn't reach out. Can we talk? I turned the phone back off and went to bed. Sleep came easier than I expected, the kind of deep, dreamless sleep you get after finally setting down something heavy you've been carrying too long. The next morning was Sunday. I woke up at 8, made coffee, and sat on my apartment's tiny balcony watching the city wake up. My phone stayed off. I had no plans, no obligations, no family dinners to avoid or family photos to be excluded from, just silence, peace, space. Around noon, someone knocked on my door. I almost didn't answer. Very few people knew where I lived, and I wasn't expecting anyone. But the knocking persisted, gentle but insistent. It was my mother. She looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. No makeup, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual polished doctor aesthetic. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Your phone is off," she said. Not an accusation, just a statement. I know. Can I come in? I hesitated, my hand on the doorframe. Part of me wanted to say no, to close the door on her the way she'd closed me out for 3 years. But another part, the part that was still, despite everything, her daughter, couldn't quite do it. Okay. She stepped inside, looking around my studio apartment with visible shock. It was small, maybe 400 square feet, with a Murphy bed that folded into the wall, and a kitchenette that was more suggestion than reality. Not what you'd expect for someone who'd just been valued at over $100 million. You live here? She couldn't quite hide the dismay in her voice. Yeah, it's close to the office, convenient. Maya, you could afford... I know what I can afford, Mum. I crossed my arms. I choose to live here. I like it. It's mine. She nodded slowly, processing that, sat down on my second-hand couch without being invited. I read the Forbes article, the whole thing, I stayed up all night reading everything I could find about your company, your work, your life. She looked up at me, tears starting fresh. I didn't know any of it. I didn't know you'd been working for the Department of Defense. I didn't know you'd prevented those hospital breaches. I didn't know you employed 50 people. I didn't know anything. You didn't ask. I know, her voice broke. I know, and that's unforgivable. Maya, I'm not here to make excuses. What I did, was wrong. You were my daughter, and I let your uncle bully you. I let him set the terms. I was embarrassed by something I should have been proud of, and she put her face in her hands. I can't take it back. I can't undo 3 years of silence, but I need you to know that I'm sorry, deeply, profoundly sorry. I sat down in the chair across from her, maintaining distance. Why didn't you stand up for me that night at the dinner? Why didn't you say anything? She was quiet for a long time. Because I was weak. Because your father and I have always valued David's approval, and he's always been the one who sets the family tone. Because we convinced ourselves that tech support was beneath you, that you were wasting your potential, and we didn't want to defend something we thought was a mistake. She looked at me directly. We were wrong. About all of it. About the value of your work. About what makes a career worthwhile. About what kind of support a parent should give their child. I needed you. The words came out smaller than I intended. That night, when he kicked me out, I needed my mother to stand up for me. To say I mattered, even if you didn't understand what I was doing. And you just sat there. I know. And then for 3 years, nothing, no calls, no texts. You removed me from your Facebook bio. You didn't invite me to Grandpa's funeral. David said you weren't welcome, and you listened to him. I leaned forward. Mum, he's not your parent. You didn't need his permission to talk to your own daughter. You chose not to. That's on you, not him. She nodded, crying harder now. You're right. You're absolutely right. I chose wrong. I chose to preserve peace with my brother-in-law over my relationship with my daughter. I chose to avoid confrontation over doing what was right. And she looked around my tiny apartment again. I missed everything. I missed watching you build something extraordinary. I missed being proud of you. I missed being your mother. The words hung between us. I wanted to feel satisfaction, vindication, the sweet taste of being proven right. Instead, I just felt tired, sad, like we'd both lost something we could never quite get back. I forgive you, I said finally, but I meant what I said last night. Forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was. It doesn't mean I'm coming back to family dinners and pretending this didn't happen. I understand. She wiped her eyes. What does it mean? It means we start over, if we start at all, like acquaintances, not mother and daughter, because that relationship, you broke that, and I don't know if it can be fixed. She flinched, but nodded. What would starting over look like? Maybe coffee sometimes, maybe updates on my life when I feel like sharing them. Maybe eventually if you prove you actually care about who I am, and not just what I've accomplished, something more. But no promises, no expectations, and definitely no family events where Uncle David acts like he gets an opinion on my life. David wants to apologise. He called this morning. I don't care what Uncle David wants. My voice came out harder than I intended. He had 3 years to apologize. He chose to spend that time erasing me instead. I'm not interested in his guilt or his olive branches now that I'm successful enough to matter to him. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. Nodded. That's fair? That's more than fair. She stood up slowly. Thank you for letting me in, for listening, for not slamming the door in my face, which I would have deserved. Mum, I stood too. I do want to try. Eventually. But it has to be real. You can't just want a relationship with Forbes 30 under 30 Maya. You have to want a relationship with me. Even if I was still doing tech support, even if I'd never built a company, even if I never accomplished anything you considered impressive. I do. She said it quickly, then stopped. Or I want to learn to. I want to know my daughter, not just the successful CEO everyone's talking about. I want to know what you like for breakfast and what kind of music you listen to and what makes you laugh. I want to know you. Then maybe we can start there. I walked her to the door, but slowly and honestly, no more pretending, no more silence. She hugged me at the door, brief, tentative, like she wasn't sure she had permission. I hugged her back, just as briefly. It didn't feel like reunion. It felt like acknowledgement, like the possibility of something, maybe, someday. After she left, I sat on my couch for a long time, processing. My phone buzzed. I'd turned it back on. A text from Marcus. How are you holding up? My mum just visited. It was complicated. Want to talk about it? Not yet, but thanks for checking. Anytime. And Maya, you did good last night. You stood up for yourself. That takes real courage. I smiled at my phone. Marcus got it. He understood that standing up for yourself to the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally was harder than any business negotiation, any client pitch, any professional challenge. Over the next few days, my phone didn't stop. Interview requests from TechCrunch, Forbes, Wired, The Wall Street Journal. Speaking invitations from conferences I dreamed of attending as a college student. Investment offers from venture capital firms. Partnership proposals from major tech companies. My inbox was an avalanche of opportunity and attention. I accepted some interviews, declined most of the speaking engagements, I still had a company to run, and ignored the investment offers. Chen Security Solutions didn't need outside funding. We were profitable, growing steadily, and I liked maintaining control. The media attention was surreal. Reporters wanted to know about my inspiring journey, my rags to riches story, my triumph over adversity. They made it sound like a Hollywood script. They didn't understand that most of it had been boring. Long nights of coding, endless client calls, the slow accumulation of skills and reputation. There was no dramatic montage, no inspirational music, just work, lots of work. But they especially wanted to know about my family. Word had gotten out. One of the gala attendees had talked to press about the public confrontation, the 3 years of estrangement, the family who'd rejected me. That was the angle everyone wanted. Family rejects. Tech worker. Regrets it when she becomes millionaire. I hated it, hated the way they reduced my family's complexity to a simple morality tale. Hated the way they painted me as either a victim or a revenge seeker. Hated the way Uncle David was getting death threats on social media from strangers who didn't know him, didn't know the whole story, just knew he'd wronged someone successful. I released a statement through my company, PR. My family's story is complicated and private. I'm grateful for the opportunities I've had to build Chen Security Solutions, and I'm focused on continuing that work. I hope everyone can respect our privacy as we navigate our relationships moving forward. It didn't stop the speculation, but it slowed it down. Uncle David released his own statement, something corporate and apologetic that his lawyer probably wrote. My mother stayed quiet. The rest of the family stayed quiet. The story slowly faded from the news cycle, replaced by newer scandals and shinier success stories. 3 weeks after the gala, I was in my office late on a Friday when my assistant buzzed me. Maya, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says she's family. Sarah Chen? I hesitated. Cousin Sarah, the golden child. Johns Hopkins medical resident, the one whose achievements had always been held up as the standard I failed to meet. I could send her away. I probably should send her away. Send her in. Sarah looked different than I remembered. Thinner, more tired, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She was wearing scrubs under a coat, must have come straight from the hospital. She looked around my office, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, the kind of space that screamed successful CEO, with something like awe. Wow, wow, she turned to me. Hi, Maya. Hi, Sarah. Awkward silence. She shifted her weight, clutching her purse like a shield. I know I don't have the right to just show up. And I know an apology is totally inadequate, but I needed to see you, to say... She took a breath. I'm sorry for everything, for not speaking up at that dinner, for not reaching out afterward, for not inviting you to my wedding, for treating you like you were invisible. Why didn't you? I kept my voice neutral. Invite me to your wedding, I mean. We were close as kids. We studied together. I helped you prep for your MCAT. She sat down without being asked, looking exhausted. Honestly, because my parents said it would upset Uncle David. Because keeping peace in the family felt more important than including you. Because... She met my eyes. Because I was embarrassed. My friends would ask who you were, what you did, and I didn't want to say tech support. I didn't want them to think the Chen family included people who weren't doctors or lawyers or professors. The honesty stung more than the absence had. At least you're being honest. I was a snob, a horrible, elitist snob. And I didn't realize how horrible until I saw what you built, what you accomplished, completely on your own, without any of the family support and connections I've taken for granted my entire life. She leaned forward. Maya, I had my parents pay for medical school. I had Uncle David's connections to get my residency at Hopkins. I had recommendations from family friends, a safety net, a built-in support system. You had nothing, less than nothing. You had us actively working against you. And you still built something incredible. It wasn't about building something incredible to prove you wrong, I said. It was about building something I believed in. I know, that's what makes it worse. You weren't trying to compete with us. You were just trying to live your life. And we made you feel like that wasn't good enough. She pulled out her phone, scrolled, showed me a photo. Her wedding day, the family photo on the steps of the church. Everyone in formal wear, everyone smiling. I look at this photo now and I see who's missing. And it makes me sick. I looked at the photo. They all looked happy, perfect, complete. I tried to imagine myself in that photo and couldn't. I didn't fit anymore if I ever had. Sarah, I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate the apology, but I don't know what you want me to say. I don't want you to say anything. She put her phone away. I want to know if there's any chance we could start over. Not as family, if that's too much, but as people who used to be friends. Who could maybe be friends again? I thought about it. Sarah had been kind to me in that passive way. She'd never actively hurt me, just never defended me either. She'd been complicit in my erasure, but not the architect of it. Did that make a difference? Maybe, I said finally, but same terms as my mother. We start slow, we start honest. You don't get to be my friend because I'm successful now. You have to want to know me, not my company valuation. She nodded quickly. I do. I want to know who you are now, what you like, what you care about outside of work. She smiled sadly. I want to know my cousin. The real one, not the idea of her I built in my head. Okay. I stood up, signalling the meeting was ending. Text me sometime. We can grab coffee, talk about something other than family drama. I'd like that. She stood too, moved toward the door, then turned back. Maya, for what it's worth, I'm proud of you. Not because of Forbes or the company, because you survived us. That took strength I don't think I have. After she left, I sat in my office as the sun set, thinking about forgiveness and family and the space between wanting to heal and being able to. My phone buzzed. Uncle David requesting a meeting. I deleted it without responding. Some bridges weren't worth rebuilding. The holidays were approaching, Thanksgiving, then Christmas, usually the most fraught time of year when family obligations press down like a weight. But this year I had no obligations, no invitations had come, no guilt-laden emails about disappointing grandma if I didn't show up. Marcus invited me to his family's Thanksgiving. My daughter's bringing her boyfriend, my son's bringing his kids, my sister's bringing her chaos. It'll be loud and messy, and probably someone will cry about politics. But there's always room for one more. Are you sure? I don't want to intrude on family time. Maya, you are family, not by blood, but by choice. And honestly, those bonds are stronger. So I spent Thanksgiving with Marcus's family in their beautiful house in the suburbs, surrounded by people who welcomed me with genuine warmth. His daughter asked about my work with real interest. His son's kids, twin 7-year-olds, asked if I could help them hack their school's Wi-Fi, which I politely declined while Marcus laughed. His sister, a social worker, asked thoughtful questions about work-life balance and whether I was taking care of myself. It felt like what family was supposed to feel like: comfortable, safe, accepting. No one was measuring my worth against anyone else's achievements. No one cared about prestige or titles or whether my career fit some predetermined mould. They just cared that I was there, that I was part of their day, that I existed. Driving home that night, I cried. Not sad tears, grateful ones. For Marcus, who'd believed in me when no one else did. For the family I'd chosen, who saw me when my blood family couldn't. For the realization that I didn't need to fix my relationship with the Chens to be whole. I was already whole, had been all along. December brought more changes. Chen Security Solutions landed a contract with Amazon Web Services, our biggest client yet. We hired 20 more employees. We moved to a new office space, triple the size of our old one, with a view of the city that still took my breath away. I finally moved out of my studio apartment into a 2-bedroom condo that felt obscenely spacious. My mother and I had coffee twice. The conversations were stilted, careful, like two strangers trying to find common ground. She asked about my work, and I gave surface-level answers. She talked about her patients, and I listened politely. It wasn't comfortable yet. Maybe it never would be, but it was something. Sarah texted occasionally, funny memes, updates about her residency, invitations to grab drinks that I sometimes accepted. We were building something tentative, fragile. Not friendship yet, but the possibility of it. Uncle David tried twice more to reach me. Both times I declined. When he showed up at my office, my assistant turned him away. I'd forgiven him in the sense that I no longer carried anger toward him, but forgiveness didn't mean access. Some people's opinions I simply no longer needed. In early December, I got an unexpected call. My grandmother, my dad's mother, the matriarch of the Chen family, 92 years old, sharp as ever, the only person in the family who intimidated Uncle David. Maya Chen. Her voice was crisp on the phone. No greeting. You've made quite a mess. Hello, Grandma. Don't hello, Grandma me. You humiliated your uncle in front of 300 people. You aired family business in public. Very dramatic. Very American. She said American like it was a diagnosis. He humiliated me first, 3 years ago, in private, where no one defended me. I know, her voice softened slightly. I know what happened at that dinner. I know about the funeral. I should have said something. I should have done something. But I'm old, and I let David run the family because I'm tired. That was wrong. I sat down, surprised. You're apologizing? I'm acknowledging there's a difference. A pause. I'd like to see you. Not at a family event. Just you and me. Can you come to tea? I almost said no. Almost. But something in her voice, not quite pleading, but close, made me hesitate. When? Saturday at 3. My house. Come alone. She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, processing. My grandmother had never apologized for anything in her life. This was something. Saturday came. I drove to my grandparents' house, the colonial where that fateful dinner had happened 3 years ago. My grandfather had died 2 years back. Grandma lived there alone now with a rotating cast of aides. The house looked smaller than I remembered, less imposing. She answered the door herself, tiny and elegant, in a silk blouse and slacks, her white hair perfectly styled. You're late. I'm 3 minutes early? That's late by Chen family standards, but she smiled just slightly and ushered me in. Come. Tea is in the sunroom. The sunroom was my favourite part of the house, all windows and plants and light. She'd set out proper tea service, the good china and pastries from the bakery she'd been going to for 40 years. We sat across from each other, the afternoon light streaming in. You look successful, she said, pouring tea with steady hands. Different, harder. 3 years alone will do that. Not alone. You built a company. 50 employees last I heard. Now 70. 72 as of last week. She nodded approvingly. Good. Growth is good. Your grandfather would have liked your business sense. He always said you were clever. I blinked. He did? Of course. You were the only grandchild who asked him questions about his work, about the actual medicine, not just the prestige. He noticed that. She sipped her tea. He wanted to come to your college graduation. I told him not to because your parents weren't going. I was wrong. The admission hung in the air. My grandmother was never wrong. Admitting it was seismic. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked quietly. "Because I'm 92 and I might be dead next year. And I don't want to die knowing I let my family fall apart because I was too proud to admit we were wrong." She set down her teacup with a decisive click. "David was wrong to throw you out. Your parents were wrong to let him. Sarah and the others were wrong to exclude you, and I was wrong to stay silent. There, I said it. Are you satisfied?" "I don't know what I am." "You're angry, you should be. But you're also lonely, I can see it. You've built this big successful company and you have no family to share it with." "I have family. Marcus and his family, my employees, people who chose me." "That's not the same." "No," I agreed, "it's better, because they chose me when I was nobody. They didn't need Forbes to tell them I was worth knowing." She studied me with those sharp black eyes that missed nothing. "You're right, you're absolutely right, and that makes it worse. We should have been the ones choosing you. We should have been proud of you when you were making $35,000 and resetting passwords. We should have seen who you were, not just what you were accomplishing." "Yes, you should have." "So now what? You exile yourself forever? You cut us all off and pretend you don't have blood family?" "I don't know, Grandma. What would you do if your family told you your life's work was embarrassing? If they kicked you out and then ignored you for 3 years? Would you just come back because they finally decided you were successful enough to acknowledge?" She was quiet for a long time. "No, I wouldn't. I'd be furious. I'd probably never forgive them." She looked at me directly. "But I'm old and bitter, and I've held grudges for 50 years. You're young. You have time to be generous." Being generous got me erased. Being a doormat got you erased. Being generous while maintaining boundaries, that's different. That's strength. She poured more tea. "I'm not asking you to forgive David. God knows he doesn't deserve it. But your mother's trying. Sarah is trying. Maybe that's worth something. Maybe." I looked around the sunroom at the family photos on the walls. Recent ones had been updated. I noticed new frames with photos that included me, my college graduation that no one attended, a photo from my 25th birthday party with work friends that someone must have found on Facebook, my Forbes magazine cover. "You added me back," I said, nodding at the photos. "Of course. Your family, you always were. We were just too stupid to act like it." She stood, moving to a drawer, pulling out an envelope. "This is for you, from your grandfather. He wrote it before he died. I was supposed to give it to you at his funeral, but David said you weren't welcome, and I—" She pressed the envelope into my hands. "I was a coward. I'm sorry." The envelope was heavy, expensive paper, my name written in my grandfather's distinctive handwriting. I opened it with shaking hands. "My dearest Maya, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I hope you're not too angry at me. I should have been a better grandfather. I should have asked you more about your work, even when I didn't understand it. I should have stood up to David when he diminished you. I should have done many things differently, but I want you to know I was proud of you. When you chose computer science over medicine, I was disappointed for about 5 minutes. Then I was proud that you had the courage to choose your own path. That's rare in this family. We're very good at following scripts, very bad at writing our own. You were always the brave one, Maya. The one who asked real questions instead of repeating what you thought I wanted to hear. The one who saw medicine as something to understand, not just something to aspire to. I should have told you that more. I should have told you a lot of things. Whatever you're doing now, wherever you are, I hope you're happy. I hope you found work that fulfills you. I hope you found people who see you for who you are. And I hope someday you can forgive us for being too blind to see what an extraordinary person you were becoming. Love always, Grandpa. I was crying, couldn't help it. The letter blurred in my hands as tears fell on the expensive paper. My grandmother sat back down, handed me a tissue. He wanted to tell you himself. He tried to call you once, about 6 months before he died. You didn't answer. I didn't recognize the number. I thought it was... I wiped my eyes. I thought it was someone from the family trying to tell me to stay away. It was him, wanting to tell you he was proud, wanting to apologize for the funeral, for David, for all of it. She took my hand, her skin papery, thin, her grip still surprisingly strong. You don't get that time back, Maya. None of us do, but you get to choose what happens next. I looked at this old woman, this matriarch who'd held the family together through decades, who'd finally admitted she'd failed. I looked at the photos on the wall, me added back into the family narrative like I'd never been erased. I looked at my grandfather's letter, his words reaching across death to tell me things I'd needed to hear 3 years ago. I don't know if I can come back, I said honestly. I don't know if I can sit at family dinners and pretend everything is fine. I don't know if I can trust that they won't decide I'm embarrassing again the next time I don't fit their standards. Then don't pretend everything is fine. Be honest. Set boundaries. Come to what you want to come to. Skip what you don't. Let them earn your trust back slowly. Or don't come at all, but keep the door open, just a crack, just enough to let the light in. Why does it matter to you? She smiled sadly. Because you're my granddaughter, and I'm running out of time to know you. Because I made mistakes I can't undo, but I can try not to make more. Because... Her voice cracked just slightly. Because I miss you. I missed 3 years of your life, and I can't get those back. But maybe I don't have to miss the rest. We sat in silence for a while, drinking tea, the afternoon light shifting across the sunroom floor. It wasn't resolution. It wasn't forgiveness. It was just a moment, a pause, a possibility. I'll think about it, I said finally, about keeping the door open. But Grandma, I need you to understand, I'm different now. I'm not the Maya who needed family approval to feel valid. I built something on my own. I found people who love me without conditions. I'm not coming back because I need you. I'd only come back because I want to, and I don't know if I want to yet. That's fair. That's more than fair. She squeezed my hand. Take your time. The door's open on our end whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready. I left an hour later with my grandfather's letter in my purse and my grandmother's words in my head. The drive home felt different somehow. Lighter, like I'd set down something I hadn't realised I was still carrying. That night, I pulled out my laptop and wrote an email, not to my family, to my employees. A year-end message about how proud I was of what we'd built together, how grateful I was for their trust and hard work, how excited I was about the future. It was the kind of message I wished my family had sent me 3 years ago. The responses came quickly. Thank you for believing in us. This company changed my life. Proud to be part of this team. You're the best leader I've ever worked for. This was my family now, the one I'd built, the one that chose me and that I chose back every day. Blood family, chosen family. Maybe both could exist. Maybe I didn't have to choose. Maybe I could have the family I built and slowly, carefully let some of the family I was born into back in. Or maybe not. Maybe the distance was permanent. Maybe forgiveness didn't mean reconciliation. Maybe peace meant acceptance, not reunion. I didn't have the answer yet. But for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I didn't need the answer right away. I had time. I had options. I had a life that was mine, built on my own terms, full of people who valued me unconditionally. And if the Chens wanted to be part of that life, they'd have to prove they deserved to be. Not through guilt or obligation or family ties, but through genuine care, through showing up, through seeing me, really seeing me, not just the Forbes cover or the company valuation, but the person who built it all from nothing while they looked away. I could wait. I'd gotten good at waiting and at building and at walking away from things that didn't serve me anymore. The future was wide open, and for once, that felt like freedom instead of loneliness. Christmas came and went quietly. I worked through most of it. We had a major contract deadline, but took Christmas Eve off to have dinner with Marcus and his family again. They gave me presents, a nice fountain pen from Marcus. Every CEO needs one. A homemade scarf from his daughter. I learnt to knit and you're my first victim. A drawing from the twins of me as a superhero with a computer for a shield. I cried happy tears for the second time in a month. These people barely knew me, and they'd made me feel more seen than my blood family had in years. My mother texted, "Merry Christmas, sweetheart. Thinking of you." I responded, "Merry Christmas." Nothing more, nothing less. We weren't there yet. Might never be. But we were trying. Sarah sent a photo of herself in an ugly Christmas sweater at the hospital. ER Christmas shift, living the dream. Hope you're somewhere warmer. I sent back a photo of Marcus's living room, the decorated tree, his family laughing in the background. Found a good place to be. Hope your shift is quiet. Uncle David sent nothing. Good. Some distances should stay distant. New Year's Eve, I did something I hadn't done in years. I took a full day off. No laptop, no phone calls, no emergency meetings. I went to a spa, the fancy kind where they give you a robe and cucumber water and everyone whispers. I got a massage, sat in a sauna, did absolutely nothing productive. It felt revolutionary. That night, alone in my new condo, I made a list. Not resolutions, I'd never been good at those, but truths. Things I knew now that I hadn't known 3 years ago. You don't need your family's approval to build something extraordinary. Chosen family is just as real as blood family, sometimes more real. Success doesn't make you worthy. You were always worthy. Success just makes it easier for other people to see it. Forgiveness is something you do for yourself, not for the people who hurt you. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding, and that's okay. You can be lonely and successful at the same time. You can also be connected and unknown. Neither defines your value. The best revenge isn't success. It's building a life you don't need revenge for. I looked at my list for a long time, then I added one more. Sometimes the family that throws you out does you a favour. They set you free to become someone you never could have been if you'd stayed. At midnight, I stood on my balcony watching fireworks over the city, drinking expensive champagne alone and feeling more at peace than I had in years. My phone buzzed with New Year's texts. Marcus, Sarah, my mother, several employees, clients, friends I'd made through work. I had built a life, a real life, full of people who valued me, work that mattered, purpose that was mine. The Chens could be part of that life or not. Their choice, my boundary. Either way, I was going to be fine. Better than fine, actually. I was going to be extraordinary, on my own terms, in my own way, with or without their acknowledgement, because I'd learned the most important lesson. Your worth isn't determined by other people's opinions. It's determined by who you are when no one is watching, by the work you do when no one is applauding, by the person you become when everyone tells you you're not good enough and you build something anyway. I'd been kicked out of my family for being unprofessional, for choosing a career path they didn't respect, for failing to meet their standards of success. And 3 years later, I'd built something they could never diminish, no matter how hard they tried. Not because I needed to prove them wrong, though I won't,